I believe is that resilience doesn't come from positivity as much as it comes from adaptability. I think the positive attitude wasn't the input. I think that's what came out of being resilient and being flexible and adaptable. I think the input, what we have to start with to get to resilience, is being adaptable and flexible.
Courtney Clark, how are you?
I'm so good, Rick. Glad to be here.
Oh, you're so happy to have you. Like, for those folks that don't know, you are going to be our keynote speaker this year at conference. So I wanted to have you on and just get to know you a little bit and hear your backstory. It's amazing. I can't wait. I'm going to learn a lot today as well, and I can't wait to get to know you better. But as you know, with this brand, we could be pretty ridiculous. So we always kick off with a dad joke. Do you have a dad joke?
I do. Here's my joke that was locked and loaded and ready to go. Rick, what did the snail say while riding on the turtle's back?
I'm already laughing. I don't know.
All about perspective, man. It's all about perspective.
That's so bad. It's great. I love it. Perfect. Oh, let me see. I got one here. Oh no, I lost it already. It was so funny. It was perfect for Austin. I'll come up with a different one anyway. So I'll hold mine for just a sec.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me see if I can grab it. I'm so lame. I've told so many dad jokes. That's what I always joke about. It's like, listen, I have so many dad jokes that I literally retell the ones that I've already told before. So
And, that almost then elevates it to grandpa jokes, because that sounds like something a grandpa would do. Tell a story.
Totally.
Done it.
Okay, this is not the one I had in mind, because I had one that was Austin specific. But what do you call a fish with no eyes? Oh, you stink! I can't believe you knew that. Like you're like a ninja with dad jokes. I love it. Yeah, that's it.
I know.
Okay, you're good. You're too good. All right. Well, obviously, you're going to fit in perfectly here. But let's start with, who is Courtney? Like, how did we get to this call? How did you get into speaking and teaching? I saw on one of your bios a really interesting description of you, which was a resilience researcher. So I thought that was fascinating. You don't necessarily have to go there, but let's just talk about you. Who's Courtney? What's your background? How'd you get here?
Well, I got into the business of speaking and doing this resilience research, I mean, kind of by accident, like any good career. I thought I was going to be an actress in New York City. I moved there at 17 and did all this stuff. And my senior year at NYU, I had this epiphany is the only way to put it. I realized that I love performing, but I hate the life of a performer.
Mm.
I realized that I don't want to be famous. I want to be important. And that's different. I said to myself, I want to, wherever I go to work, I don't want to walk in and be like, whatever, there's 85 other blondes and they're prettier than you and they can sing higher than you and kick higher than you. I want it to be like, thank goodness you're here, Courtney. We couldn't do it without you. That's what I was craving. And you don't get that very much in theater. At some level you do. But
right.
The majority of us, the path there is just a lot of you're very replaceable. And that was what I didn't want for my life. I would rather, just be so I don't need people to applaud. When I leave the office for the day, I just need people to be thankful that I'm there. I need to do work that is meaningful. And so I started doing PR, which got me into the nonprofit world. And through all of that, then I was diagnosed with cancer at 26.
Mm.
And I was already working in the nonprofit world. So then I started working with young adults with cancer. And then I started my own nonprofit and ran that for a while. Talk about a learning experience.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes. And then I went back to grad school to learn more about how to run a nonprofit. I realized if I wanted to make it successful, I really needed to improve my knowledge. So I went back and I got a master's degree in nonprofit development. And I also didn't want to fall victim to founder syndrome. I knew that it was going to have to get bigger than me
Right.
and I was going to need to improve myself. So went back to grad school. That's when I realized I'm a secret research nerd and I loved doing research. And I was mostly doing secondary research at that time for my thesis. But I turned that into my first book and then I started speaking and I was like, oh, wow, this is the middle of the Venn diagram of teaching, helping people, and performing all of the things that I love to do. It's like, boop, right there in the middle. And so I've been doing it for the past 10 years.
Fantastic. I love it. It's so interesting how we all start our lives in a certain direction. I mean, same. Like I opened this business when I was a junior in college, and I'm sitting in the same building, which was 33 years ago. It's crazy, right? And it was just like, hey, this is a fun way to pay my way through school. I can create a customer experience around this really high end service. I didn't expect to be doing it 33 years later. It didn't even seem like a real job. I mean, I've never, it's so cliche, but I really have never worked. Like, not one day have I woken up and thought, ugh, I don't want to do this, right? But it's so funny. I would have never guessed as a business major that I would end up doing what I'm doing now and being an entrepreneur, and I've done nothing else. And it's been the most fulfilling career ever. I love it. And so now in franchising, I get to give other people the opportunity to realize the same thing. So it's so gratifying. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Like you leave a room and people pick up a few nuggets about resilience or how you dealt with tough times. Just a few things to move the needle makes a massive difference for people. So props to you. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I think you hit the nail on the head. So, what I have found in my research and also just in my life is that a huge part of that resilience is realizing that things don't turn out the way you planned. Right? You didn't expect your life to end up. I did not go to school to do this. I mean, you did go to school to run a business, but this isn't what you expect, how you expected it to look. I have not met a single person in my hundreds of thousands of audience members who have said, yep, that my life looks just like what I wrote down in my journal when I was 15. Totally envisioned this. Nobody does that. And so, what I believe is that resilience doesn't come from positivity as much as it comes from adaptability.
Hmm. Now,
It,
tell me what you mean by that. Can you expound on that a little bit?
I sure can. I think a lot of times when we think of resilience, we point to somebody that we are like, oh, they're really resilient. What we see is a positive attitude. And we think that that's the ingredient. But I believe that's the end result. I think the positive attitude wasn't the input. I think that's what came out of being resilient and being flexible and adaptable. I think the input, what we have to start with to get to resilience is being adaptable and flexible and realizing that it doesn't look the way we planned, the way we expected. It's not necessarily always going to go like step one, step two, step three. There you go.
Wouldn't
Here's
that be nice?
path. Yes, along the middle path. And so for me, that's the root of resilience is that adaptability, not the attitude, the positivity. I think that's the outcome. We are more positive. We have a better attitude. But if we think that that's where we have to start, then we're going to be like, well, I guess I'll wait to be resilient until I feel happy about it.
Well, let me ask you on that because as I'm hearing you say that, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that resilience is a skill that can be developed, right? So adaptability, you could learn the skill set of adaptability, which would then lead to what outwardly perceived would be like this, super positive attitude, like you said. So is that true, or is it that you're innately wired that way or not? And I hope it's not that.
Some people are more innately wired to be adaptable and to let go of the plan. As a firstborn daughter, I love things to go the way I want them to.
That's right. You do.
That was like a built-in thing. So yes, you may have like a little bit of a predisposition because we all have a personality, but it is absolutely teachable. It's absolutely something that we all can gain and get better at. And the reality is, I think sometimes we were better at it as children and we forget it. Well, because think about as a kid, you're not in control of as much. As a kid, there's a lot of things you want and then don't get, and you have to kind of figure out a way to like still be okay with it. And your family might move, and that wasn't your choice. But then, oh, lo and behold, I found new friends, and
Right.
you get dumped. You get your heart broken from your first love. You don't get into your first choice school. For college, you don't get the job that you interviewed for. All of these things, I think, when we're younger, the hits come maybe a little bit more frequently. We kind of are constantly having to adjust and figure it out. And then the older we get, the more control we have over our lives, which is great. Except then we're like, no, 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 I drive to work the same way every single day. How dare they do this road construction?
Right.
Right? How dare there be this barricade in my path? So we then have to train ourselves to think about it in a different way. We have to train ourselves to think about these detours, these obstacles as not this personal affront, but an opportunity, a perfectly normal way of having to navigate life.
It's interesting you say that. So, yeah, obviously we're in franchising, and in franchising, we're quite often taking someone who's, we always joke, they're rehabilitating themselves from corporate. Maybe they spent 20 years working in corporate, and they're like, I don't really know what my work is amounting to. Like, I'm tired of making money for other people, whatever that is, right? And then they say, I want to take my shot at entrepreneurship. But I think with that comes an expectation for how things are going to go. And we really try to be diligent about creating a realistic expectation that entrepreneurship is not for whims. Things don't always go your way. And if you had to ask me what the one trait that I think is most important for the successful transition into franchisee or into entrepreneurship, it's just a stoic control of your emotions. But I would say it that way, where I think you might say adaptability, because look, if you nail it out of the gate, our business model could be fantastic. You can, and it has happened with a completely full facility. You're changing lives, everything's great. But that doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes, things get lumpy, or you have your manager, which we call the director, they leave mid pre-sale and it's busy and you're kind of panicking. But if your expectation was, Courtney, that it was just going to be smooth sailing and you were going to be super smart and you're going to have this all figured out, and all of a sudden that doesn't happen the way that you planned, to your point, some people, if they're either lacking the skill or they haven't built that muscle, if you will, yet, they have a hard time, because they'll say, instead of it just being like, okay, great. I mean, this is the way it is. I'm going to adapt, change, shift. It's like, okay, my reality is not this, it's this, right? And in entrepreneurship, boy, that can all happen in an afternoon, right? From one to the other. And the people that can shift gears and keep the main thing, and just keep plugging away, they do really well. The people that then take that change in their perceived plan as an affront to them personally, like, well, I guess I'm just not cut out for this, they struggle, and sometimes they come around, sometimes they don't. What would you tell that person? I mean, I'm sure it's right on the nose with your message, but what would you tell that person they're stepping into entrepreneurship? They're like, in their dream scenario, everything's going to go perfectly, right? And it doesn't. And then they think, gosh, I guess this isn't for me, or this is too, we've heard it articulated as, this is too hard. It's like, I don't know what to do with that necessarily, because it's not any harder for the other people that do well. They just, maybe they're more adaptable, in your terms, right? What would you say to that person?
So, okay, what I'm going to say is going to shock you, but then give me a second.
So let's hear it.
I would say to that person, give up, but not in the way you think. I know, not in the way you think.
Just quit.
Well,
I know. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, kind of, yes. So just quit walking whatever path you're so committed to that it's pissing you off that it's not working out. That is what we're finding. So I'm about to launch some new research, and the findings are in. And what we are finding is that it is those people who are so committed to one goal, one plan, one path that they can't, you mentioned two things. You said like pivot and then keep on plugging away. That's a thing that you can do, but so often we don't even realize you could pivot and then keep on plugging away. When we hear keep on plugging away, we think keep on plugging away exactly as I was going along. But it's like sometimes you have to actually stop. You have to actually quit doing what's not working to conserve your resources for a way that would work. So I weirdly am starting to go around and tell people to like, it's okay to give up. Not necessarily give up and like wash your hands and walk away and go back to your 9 to 5, but like quit whatever your idea of exactly how this had to be. Give up on that. If this way of running your business isn't working, that doesn't mean your business isn't working, but it might mean that way of running your business isn't working. And you can spend all of your energy and your emotion trying to make it work just like Rick did, or just like this other person did, or maybe you live in a different area, or maybe your skill set is slightly different. It's like, couldn't there be another way to make a success out of this that isn't the formula that you thought?
Yes. Yes. Same outcome, but just why do you think people in your research that what have you found about why do people build like a mental model and then why are they so married to it?
We're trained that way. So 71% of working Americans were trained to never give up. We hear it from teachers and parents and coaches, and we have completely integrated that message. It's become a cultural belief that, quitters never win, right? And so grit is good. I am not at all here to say that grit isn't good, and that is an important tool for success. But if it's the only tool in your toolbox, you're going to be out here banging your head against a brick wall and being like, grit, grit. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep put one foot in front of the other. That's what I'm supposed to do. Instead of like, but on the other side of this brick wall, if you just like moved a couple feet over, there would be another path open for you. So I'm really big on it's okay to not break down that brick wall. If you don't have the tools to do it, like, could we just maybe try another path that doesn't have a brick wall
Right.
in it?
Well, and
Um,
sometimes that path, again, it's a path that was created out of an expectation. Like I'm going to be the one that everything goes perfectly in my build out, and I'm not going to have any issues with permitting, and then I'm going to get open on time, and I'm going to have a full gym, and my staff's going to stay forever, and
do we
everything's going to be great.
not have any issues
So,
with permitting?
can you imagine Austin, especially Austin, like great
Well,
city for
yeah, yeah.
permitting? They got 15 people have to come by and do it individually, and half of them are out of town in the summer. So it's like, but I digress. But I think when I hear you say it's almost like quit to keep going, right? So quitting could be just giving up on that ideal scenario that you created. And you're like, okay, that's not how it worked out. So I can either stay tied to that, which is going to make me feel like a failure because it's not going that way, but it's still going. But to your point, 2 degrees to your left, there is another path. And it might just, it doesn't have to mean like obviously franchising is like follow the process. So we don't mean like go off off the path and, keep your guardrails up. But it could just be a mindset. Do you agree? It could just be, hey, I'm going to think about my business this way instead of that way. Could that also be a quit and restart, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just a pause. But again, if we've told ourselves like, be unstoppable, then we're not even stopping to take stock of the situation. And so what I have found is there's a little bit of a culture of toxic positivity. And it exists in the resilience world too. But toxic positivity, the problem with toxic positivity is it's this belief that your attitude earns you the right to a certain outcome, right? Because I have this good positive attitude, it's bound to pay off. Hard work pays off. So then if I have the formula, if I have hard work and a good attitude, it's going to work out. And that is often true. And in that case, then yes, persistence and perseverance is the tool you should use.
Right. It's interesting. I've seen that with some entrepreneurs where, even before we came to franchising, we had 2,500 door fronts that we coached all over the world, like cricket training centers in India and aqua training centers in Tasmania. And I mean, we did a lot of business coaching. And sometimes we would get on business coaching calls. And to your point, people that were by every measure, which look, the numbers are the way that adults keep score in a business. So it's like that's how you know the health of your business. Those would not be stellar, but the person would seem almost Pollyanna in attitude, like, "Oh, it's great, we're killing it, I love it." And I'm like, "Are you?" Because I could see your numbers. It's not that. So it was almost to your point on maybe toxic positivity, but it was almost a mask, right? For like, okay, now you have to wake up, so to speak. Maybe again, quit whatever this is, take two steps to the left. Don't break through the wall. Great if you can do it. But if you keep beating your head against it, maybe you just back up and walk around it. And there's a whole new idea or path that'll get you to the same place, right?
I promise you're never getting a new head, but you can get a new path. So between the two options,
Right.
I recommend that you at least take a pause break and reevaluate. Yes, so when I talk to groups, a lot of times we're talking about like what are those signs that it might be time to quit and give up on something so that we can figure out what's going to be more successful and pursue that path. And you're exactly right that like you got to look at numbers. In fact, we only have so many resources to invest. Money is a resource, and time is a resource, and mentorship and coaching is a resource. Our health is a resource. I mean, as someone who has had cancer 4 times, I have to be realistic about what this body is capable of. And I'm limited in how many speaking engagements I can do a year because I can't be on the road as much as some of my colleagues. I have so many doctor's appointments. Um, and that's just my reality. And I could sit here and be like, "Oh, I'm so mad. It's not fair." Well, it's also pretty unfair that I get this kick-ass job. And
Right. And that you're doing so well. Look,
yeah,
without getting too personal, do you mind sharing, certainly through the lens of resilience? Look, I wouldn't wish what you have on anyone, but I'm sure someone wired your way would say that there has some things that you have learned that almost you couldn't learn in any other scenario. Do you mind sharing any thoughts around that? You don't have to if it's too personal, and I do mean that.
well, listen, my whole life is about getting on stage and sharing what's personal to me. Yeah, I think I really, at 26, when I was diagnosed for the first time, that's when I realized that life is too short to be miserable. Um, and so that helped me. I think if that hadn't happened, I'm not sure I would have become an entrepreneur
Right.
because I was again, I'm a firstborn. I was like the path follower. I was I do this and then life gives me this in return. But I found out a few years ago why I've gotten cancer 4 times. And it's not just bad luck. The joke in my family used to be that as the oldest, I was the beta test because my younger are like incredibly healthy athletes. I mean, and here I am, just like these body parts breaking down all the time, cancer. But part of it, the reason I get cancer, and the reason I have asthma, I was too close to the World Trade Center on September 11th.
No way.
Yeah. So my cancer is what caused that the World Trade Center exposure, being having spent a lot of time down there. I worked down there. And so that is the cause of my cancer. I'm now part of the World Trade Center health program.
Oh,
And
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
You know, you're the first one I've met. I mean, I've met people that had family members that were lost in the actual collapsing of the buildings, things of that nature. But you're the first person I've actually interacted with personally who has been affected by the after effects, right? The toxins in the air and all the other things. That's interesting.
yeah, we didn't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
years and years for them to realize that this was happening. And then sort of the numbers started to come in and people went, oh, asbestos and all of the things in the air. So those of us who spent either worked or lived in kind of that mile and a half radius are at a it's like 30-fold increase of cancer and respiratory illnesses. And so yeah, that's I was diagnosed 4 years later, and that's why.
Wow. So what have you learned? What has cancer taught you?
So, I think cancer has taught me not it's so interesting. It's a balance, to appreciate what I have, but also never miss a moment to go after more, a and that both of those things can coexist. There were times in my life when I wasn't sure that I was going to get a full lifespan. And so there it becomes this like need to cram it all in. And at the same time, I also have this desire for like safety, security, being able to predict what's going to happen next and stay safe. So for me, it's not even oh, it's this one lesson. It's more like this trying to find the balance. Trying to find the balance. So I had just gotten married. I was basically a newlywed when I was diagnosed with cancer.
Hmm.
And my husband did not, uh, in my opinion, he wasn't the best partner through cancer. And so I sought a divorce because I realized life is too short. And I was worried that, like, oh man, now I hear I'm damaged goods out on the dating market. Like, this is going to be wild. But I found a partner who then, through all of my health struggles after that, has been an incredible partner. As takes me to the bathroom. Like, uh, can't I wouldn't have believed that that could be the case. So I think one of the most important things that I've done is trust my judgment.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten really good through the cancer at trusting my judgment.
Good for you. That's such a great attribute, to have to trust yourself in your decisions and your lenses. And I mean, look, all of our, whatever you've heard the saying, like opinions are like assholes, right? Everybody has one. But then you can go further and say, yeah, but I would argue they're not like assholes and that everybody's needs to be examined closely. Because, again, if we're presented with new info, it's like, hey, look, there's a lots of ways to change your paradigm in the way that you think, right? So, look, I love it. If you had one message, this is a loaded question. If you had one message to tell the world simply, what would that be?
I think it's what we were just talking about. The thing I'm so passionate about now is that we stop being unstoppable because that's what's going to allow us to change. And the world is changing so fast. I mean, I feel like just in the past year and the AI and like the world is changing so fast. And I feel every one of my 45 years these days. The other day I was thumbing through like an magazine, and like most of the magazines that I used to love, they don't even exist anymore. And I said to my husband, I'm like, this is going to make me sound really old, but I miss magazines.
Yeah,
Like,
it was. I was just talking to my girlfriend the other day, and she's like, I miss a good magazine. I used to really, and she's like in her early 40s. She's like, I'd love to just pick up a good magazine and read it. She's like, I really miss that. I'm like, yeah, me too. That was really fun.
here that she said the same thing in the past
Yeah.
week. I did. I really just miss like that magazine. I'm 45. I miss when that magazine would come and you'd be like, ooh, this is now the only way that I can know what's in style for the next season. Figure out what kind of, makeup I should be wearing or how to cut my hair, like any of these things. Now, of course, it's all bombarded at us. Everything is changing so fast. And so I think if we're not able to change our definition of success, the path we're taking to get there, we are going to be in a world of hurt. We're going to be left behind on the change curve. And we are going to be those people, frustrated and putting our fist in the air, like, but I was promised if I worked hard and had a positive attitude. So that is the message that I'm trying to share, is that being unstoppable doesn't equal success. Being stoppable and changeable, right? It's that adaptability. That's how we're going to get there.
I love it. Well, Courtney, look, it's been a pleasure just getting to know you. I cannot wait to hear you speak live and to get to meet you in person. But thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for what you do. You really, if your goal is to leave that room and to leave the world a better place, or that room a better place, or what have you, I would 100% say that you're doing that. So props to you and for your adaptability. How about that?
Oh, thank you. I cannot wait to be with y'all in September.
Yeah, likewise. Well, listen, appreciate it.
Dad joke. I need a new one.
Oh, look, people will give you plenty at the conference. Don't worry. It's part of our ethos. Where can people learn more about you?
CourtneyClark.com is my website. Head there, links to all my socials, and pretty quick, you'll be able to download my new research.
Oh, so fantastic.
So you can find out, kind of see where you fall on the scale of, like, were you taught to never give up and quitters never win? And what are some strategies that we can balance that grit with a little growth resilience?
Love it. Well, you guys heard it. Courtney Clark, my friends. Appreciate you.
Be there with you soon.